Hey guys, Key here from Kegland, and very excited to announce that we've just got our new Nukatap FCs finished. Now these are an awesome flow control design which have much better laminar flow, so you're not going to pour as much foam as you did before with some of the previous taps. The other thing that's really nice about it is it's the world's first and only, as far as we're aware, flow control tap which is forward sealing but can also have an auto close spring. Now a lot of guys are using these for mini keg systems and stuff like that where they've got the tap directly mounted on the keg, for instance, therefore they don't have any beer line and need some methods to adjust or slow the flow down. So if you're in that situation, you're really going to love this tap, because previously you had to use something like, let's say, a Perlic or Intertap flow control tap, and if somebody accidentally bumped it while you're at the park, or you've got a kid running around, or you're playing frisbee and it hits the tap, it's going to open that tap up, it's not going to close, and all your beer's going to end up, in the park in the wrong place. So yeah, these new taps are awesome. It's the only one with a spring return. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy it. Let's have a closer look at the design though and get into the nitty-gritty. So underneath the bonnet here, I'm going to open this up and you'll see underneath here we've actually made some small changes here, and these same changes have been made on the other Nukataps, so the Stealth Bomber and the other Nukatap SS designs. Inside we now have these bushings in here which are red in colour. Now you're probably wondering why we bother just colouring them red, and that's because firstly it's our colours, but the other thing is this is a unique type of polymer which is a self-lubricating polymer, and it's got really excellent chemical resistance. The reason why we use this particular polymer type is A, it's really smooth for the movements back and forth. It means that even when you tighten up the bonnet quite tight, the tap doesn't bind up. And that's secondly important if you're using a spring as well, because you want the spring to be a minimal spring force, still required to still open and close the tap easily without excessive force to pull the tap open. So even when you fit the spring, when you pull the tap, there's only a 1 kilogram pull force on the top of the tap handle. So still fairly light touch. And that's somehow facilitated, is partly facilitated by the new bushings that we have in here. The other bushings that we used to use are nylon, and those nylon bushings, sometimes if you're using aggressive chemicals, caustic and really high acid products in particular, they would sometimes attack the bushing itself, and that would wear out over time. But with these new red ones, honestly, I wouldn't even bother buying a spare seal kit because they'll last literally forever. Now, because this is a Nukatap, we use the same Nukatap shuttle that we do in the Nukatap SS. So you could even, take the bomb shape shuttle out of one and put it in the other, works perfectly. Now, as you can see, and as you would already know, with these shuttles, we use an overmold, which is a EPDM and PP matrix, which is then overmolded onto a PP substructure. The reason we do this is we get an absolutely seamless finish, making the tap more sanitary, but secondly, making it even more laminar flow. The other thing is the materials that we've chosen in the shuttle, just like the other parts that we've got here, are far more chemically resistant. So once again, if you're using aggressive acids and stuff like that, or you've got acetic acid from very, very sour beers, they're not going to swell up and damage the O-rings. All of these parts are practically indestructible. So when you're assembling the tap, put this larger fin at the top side, because that's where the handle's going to slot in when we screw the bonnet down. The other thing that you'll see with this tap is we fit these two pieces next. Now, if you really like, you can put a tiny bit of lubrication just on this O-ring here. It's almost not necessary if the parts are wet, but a bit of lubrication is going to make your O-rings last a bit longer. So this will push down the bore of the tap next, but you have to make sure that the arm is unscrewed first. So this comes out like so. And to give you an idea of how it works, this particular flow control or detented arm, the knob that we've got here, moves the sleeve back and forth. So as you turn this back and forth on the tap, this sleeve will move back and forth like that. Now this is quite different to a lot of the other designs on the market. With the Nukatap FC, we're moving a hollow sleeve, and the male part of the cone flow restrictor stays absolutely still. So this male part sits in the back of the shank like this, and it doubles actually as the sealing component between the shank and the tap body. So normally what you would see in other tap designs is a little seal that sits in here, but we're able to reduce the part count by using the flow control mechanism as one of the seals at the same time. The other thing is, this is the single design where we're able to put a spring in place because this is has a hollow bore in it. So if you are to look inside the tap, you'll see that the spring fits onto the flow control male cone part, goes through the middle of the bore of the flow control device, and then the other side of the spring is pushing on the back of the shuttle like so. So this type of assembly here is what enables us to have the only forward sealing flow control tap with spring return. So after you fit the flow control sleeve in place like so, then just drop the spring in place, making sure that the larger side of the spring is going down towards the tap and the smaller tapered sides heading towards the shank. Then get the male part of the flow control device, the male cone, and drop that in, trying to get the spring to sit just on the front of that little knob or node there in place. And you push that together, and now that can screw straight onto the tap shank. Once you've got that all together, on this side you can put in the flow control device, just like so. On the top, just make sure you've got the new red bushing in place, and then put in the tap handle and screw down the bonnet, just like so. Now, of course, the moment of truth. Let's see how this baby pours. Now I'm going to move the lever all the way in the off position, all the way back like that. As you can see, very, very slow flow or no flow at all. And if I just gradually open this, you can see it starts to fill the stream, and then faster and faster as you move it forward. So that is pretty much it. The perfect pour of Darren's Verdant IPA. Thanks for that, Darren. Anyway, if you want to hear about any of our cool new stuff, definitely subscribe to our YouTube channel, just in the bottom right-hand corner down there. The other thing it's worth doing is signing up to our Facebook community group. A lot of like-minded members like yourself on there sharing tips and trips on how to brew. And also we give out our discount codes, of course, too, there as well. Anyway, cheers to that, guys. Looks like this one's for me. See ya. Yeah.